Joining us now, Democratic member of the Armed Services Committee, Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. She was one of the 6 lawmakers who released that video last month, reminding members of the military they can and must refuse illegal orders. So that looking quite prophetic at this point, if it was indeed an illegal order, if it is deemed that ultimately down the road. I'm curious, Senator, your reaction to what you just heard from Tom Cotton there.
Well, Senator Cotton, I saw the video. I did not. It contradicts a number of other reports I've heard from people who were in the room and watched the same video. I think, look, honestly, whether it's this crisis or the Signalgate crisis, the easiest thing to do is just be transparent with the American people. Just come and show your math. You know, if there's a video, let's see it. If there's an explanation and a TikTok that helps us explain this, show it to us. On Signalgate, if we had just had the Secretary of Defense own up to putting people at risk by putting sensitive details out on the open, an open line, at the beginning, we wouldn't be here. But it was that lack of transparency from the Secretary of Defense continues to hound him and boomerang on him.
Yeah, a lot of precedents that he's setting and not making it easy to sort of have an open mind about his approach to leadership, putting that lightly. I want to pull back on the boat strike from January 2nd to the entire operation. Is it lawful?
You know, I think the thing that many of us have been asking a lot of questions on is, look, I think if you came to the Armed Services Committee and said, we want to have a real conversation about stepping up creative action against traffickers, drug traffickers, there's a lot of us who are, I said openly, I'm ready to have that conversation. There's plenty of times where we haven't done enough over years and years and years against these drug traffickers. But what's gone on now is we have a secret list of organizations that we're now in armed conflict with. We can't get access to that list. Who are we fighting? And then the legal justification for the whole operation is a classified document that even the operators can't see. So it just, as someone who was involved in operations against Al-Qaeda and ISIS and helping to target those organizations, there's a standard of just, again, showing your math. This is how we came to this list that's just not being met. So, again, I don't think the principles of the operations, a lot of us would be open to those. It's the way they've gone about it that's completely ham-handed.
And to your point of lack of transparency, let's remember on the Signalgate investigation conducted by the Pentagon Inspector General, Secretary Hegseth refused to even hand over his phone for that. Senator, we've talked to a number of Republicans this week who are sort of struggling, shall we say, to justify the sort of motive, if you will, of these strikes off the coast of Venezuela to prevent drugs, with the pardon of the Honduras president, who of course was prosecuted as a head of a drug cartel. And then others have expressed real misgivings about expanding the Venezuela operation, potentially to land strikes, which the president said could come at any time. What conversations are you having with your Senate colleagues about trying to, get in front of that?
Well, certainly if there's an idea that we're going to go start a land war against Venezuela, and just remember, I mean, the military of Venezuela is not comparable to the military of the United States. If we're going to do that, then that should come to Congress, right? And there's legislation right now on authorization of military force, just reminding everyone, per the Constitution, you should come to Congress and have that conversation with the American public, frankly, if we're going to get into another war. But the amount of force that's being brought into the Caribbean and off the coast of Venezuela, I mean, at this point, I heard it's already $1 billion just to move all this force into the area. It certainly is trying to send a signal. So again, when it comes to using force in our name, come to the American public, come to Congress and explain why you're doing this.
Senator Slotkin, earlier this week we played a clip from 2016 of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saying the U.S. military would not follow unlawful orders, mirroring the message from you and your fellow Democratic lawmakers. Yesterday on social media, you posted these additional comments on the topic from the Secretary himself. Let's listen.
He says big, blustery things that people want to hear, but he goes way too far. And then when the military says, we won't follow illegal orders like torture or killing families, which is not loosening the rules of engagement, he suddenly realizes, wait, I might actually be commander-in-chief. And the problem here is that voters don't know whether you get the bluster Trump, or which is the armchair tough guy, or you get the one who walks it back on a statement now and says, no, 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 I'll follow the law. The military's not going to follow illegal orders. And so the Trump campaign was forced to change their position and say, we're going to try to change the law so that the military can operate within the law. That's a tall order also.
Using his own words, we showed some of them earlier this week. Is the secretary fit for this job at this point? He seems to have completely changed on this very important part of being Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, well, I mean, whether it's this issue or, Signalgate or so many others, I think the thing that I'm used to as someone who worked at the Pentagon under Democratic administrations, Republican administrations, is A, the buck stops with the Secretary of Defense. You don't blame other people, you don't deflect, you own responsibility. And he wouldn't be the first Secretary of Defense to have complicated things happening during his tenure, so just own it. And then I think, secondly, when your leadership becomes a distraction from the mission of the organization you claim to care about, when we're all sitting here talking today about his leadership instead of about the amazing things that our military can do, the positive things, that to me means you're distracting from the mission, and you should do the right thing and step aside. And I think that from Signalgate on, that is how I felt.
Senator, before you go on this issue of the boat strike from September 2nd, what is the very least that you expect from your Republican counterparts?
I think we have to all be shown the video on the Armed Services Committee, and I think we need to have a hearing. Just basic oversight is all I'm asking for.
Democratic member of the Armed Services Committee, Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, thank you very much. So.